Hello friends, Lee here from TableTop Bong. Thanks for joining me in this video. Thought we could hang out, have a fun sesh, and we can talk about a blast from the past, a true hack going back to Arizer roots called Pack the Elbow. If you don't know about this one and you're using an Extreme Q2, you definitely need to know about this hack. And I'm telling you, this one might even be one of the very first hacks that I fully and totally got into way back in the day, but this was before the Extreme Q2. I know lots of people were doing this particular hack with the Extreme Q and also with the V Tower, I believe. Yeah, I mean, this one, it changed the game for me. Why? Because I was on the Extreme Q2, or no, pardon me, I was on the Extreme Q at the time. When I learned this one, dry herb wasn't always easy to get, right? There was a bit of a scarcity, and there was always the price tag that went along with it. So when I found this, I found out that this was probably the single most efficient way I knew at the time to enjoy dry herb and to really stretch the stash. It was so much more efficient than smoking. And, I had learned very quickly that, what you were done with when you were vaping, you could definitely use that for making edibles. So, I really thought this was a win. This was how I could stretch it out as far as possible. So I really took to it, and I did this for, a couple of years at least as my mainstay regular way of vaping with the Extreme Q. So, with the Extreme Q2, this exact same hack works just as well, or maybe even better. So I thought, why not celebrate our roots and have a fun sesh? And we'll just talk about it. I'll show you the extreme basics of this, because this is probably the easiest hack in the world, right? So you get your bowl where you would drop your dry herb in, and then you take your connection for your hose, you put it in on top, and then you put that on, and away you go. You start vaping one way or another, however you want to do it, right? Whether you're going to draw off the whip hose, or if you're going to blow up a balloon, it's all up to you from there, right? But instead of doing that, what the idea is, instead of dropping the dry herb in the glass bowl, we're actually the elbow, right, that goes to the whip hose, or if you're going to blow up a balloon, same thing. You have, the basket screen here or the basket screen here. This is going to become your chamber now. This is where you're going to pack your dry herb into, not into the actual bowl. So what I found is, if you're blowing up balloons, if you pack the elbow and you pack in medium ground dry herb, you can blow up one balloon per elbow pack, and it's a nice mix. I blow up balloons about 420 degrees Fahrenheit, and it seems to be just about right to give me, because it heat builds from the metal ring, right, on the basket screen. So that ends up actually heat building. So, in the beginning, the vapor is a little bit thinner, and you watch it as it goes, and the vapor gets thicker and thicker and thicker as the balloon is blowing up. So, start at 420 if you want to get a nice, full-bodied vapor. If you want it a little bit thinner, go down maybe 10 degrees. If you want it a little bit thicker, go up 10 degrees. Play around with it, but I wouldn't go too much more than that, because by the end, this is basket screen's getting pretty hot. So, there's always a risk of combustion if you're not careful, especially when you're using the fan with the heat, right? That kind of intensifies everything. So, when I'm using, when I'm drawing from the vaporizer into a bong and then through a whip hose, typically I'll turn the temperature up much higher than I would if I'm doing a balloon, because I don't have the same, capacity to draw on it like a fan, right? I wish I did. Could you imagine if you could make your lungs work like a fan? Oh, okay, sorry, I was just gone for a second daydreaming on that one. All right, so let's get in and I'll show you exactly what this means, and we'll just rip this, we'll just connect the Extreme Q2 to the TableTop Bong, and we'll just rip a couple of elbow loads. That sounds funny, eh? A couple of elbow loads. So I'm using medium ground dry herb. I have some Jack Herer here today. I'm not packing it as hard as possible, but I'm packing it in firmly enough that I know nothing will fall out, okay? This is a key thing, because instead of using the stock bowl, what I do is I use a piece that's just an 18 to 18 so that I can drop that on, and there's no screen in the middle. There's no glass screen eating up any of the heat when I'm drawing on it. So it just allows me to get a little more heat or a little less draw resistance, I guess. All right, let's move this out of the way. We will move this and this, and we'll see how that works, and we'll just hook them together. This is such an easy way to enjoy the Extreme Q2. So basically, I'm running it at around 475 degrees Fahrenheit right now. I'm going to take about three really good draws off of basically one packing of the elbow, which is about 0.1 of a gram, just so you know, maybe 0.12 of a gram. Cheers. That's backwards. So when I do the three draws, the first one is basically lower temperature, and it's gonna heat build inside the elbow a little bit and start to really get you into some thicker vapor. But that is that really terpy, low temperature. You know, you're basically getting everything as far as low temperature terps right here on the first draw. Second draw, you're kind of a medium temperature, so you know you're really hitting that next tier of unlocking with the plant. And then the third draw is going to be high temperature, which is going to really, you know, unlock anything else that's left. and you know, in three draws you can basically cash it out, with the exception of leaving enough THC in the dry herb that it still makes sense for baking. So that's kind of the way that it worked out for me, and I followed that formula for a long time, and it did the job. Cheers. So you see that draw two, that thicker vapor than the first draw. Now I'm gonna not leave too much time in between, because I really want to hit that while everything is still at its maximum kind of heat from it being having air pulled through it. Because I really want to try and heat climb or heat build it a little bit more in that third draw, if at all possible. If you do it right, I'll just show you what the dry herb looks like in here. Okay, so you can see it's not, you know, it's not overly vaped out. That's what I'm saying, right? Like, you get a good unlock on everything. If you go much more than that, what I find is if I go into draw 4 or 5 personally, that's when I'm starting to get into the cough zone, but I'm quick to cough. So, you know, don't necessarily follow the exact rule of 3 there. Maybe try 4 or 5 yourself and see what works for you. Of course, when we talk about this stuff, it's always just a guideline, right? It's just start here and play around with it. When I mentioned my temperature 475. You know, this device goes to 500. You might want to go to 485 because you like it hotter than I do. That's definitely a possibility. These are just ideas to start from, and I'm not ever saying that I think my way or the way I'm demonstrating is the only or is definitely guaranteed to be the best way. I'm just saying this is the way that I seem to have worked out that I like, and I think it makes sense if you're playing around with packing the elbow and doing this kind of thing. The way I'm showing you is a good baseline, and then, you know, get to know it. And I always appreciate if you guys drop in the comments, if you have something you're doing that is, you know, different than this, that you think is superior in some way. I love it. Like, drop it in the comments. Let's talk about it. You know, and we can also, you know, starting this Thursday, October 2nd, we can also talk about it live, 9 p.m. That's going to be a really exciting thing. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and getting pretty excited about starting the lives Thursday. So that's going to be cool. These things, you know, we're going to get to have a nice open forum and talk about them. So I hope you guys are, you know, considering these things, and, you know, a hack like this that you think maybe, you know, nobody's talked about in a while, that is gold for certain people though, right? So we should keep these conversations alive, not be afraid to go back to the roots. And, you know, I was thinking about this too. I'm going to just hit this. Things like these hacks, they really have kind of paved the way for the future, or where we're sitting today, right? It's the early adopters back in the day who really started to open things up, like, you know, with hacks like this, and you know, how we've built off of it from there. It really shapes what comes in the next wave of vaporizers, right? I mean, it only makes sense to be looking at the videos and who's hacking what and different forums and all that kind of stuff, because there's, you know, so much great information for manufacturers to expand their products when they see these kinds of hacks. So, you know, what we're hacking in with today's gear is kind of shaping what comes tomorrow as well, right? Like, it's pretty cool when you think about the fact that we really do shape what comes when we look at where we've been. So good. Extreme Q2. Extremely hard hitting. When you pack the elbow, crank the heat up a little bit, take some big draws on it. Oof. And I'll tell you what, if you've never done that and you have an Extreme Q2, oh, you're gonna have a really good day. All right, my friends, that's it. I just wanted to jump on, spend a few minutes sort of celebrating where we've been, take a look at where we're going. You know, these things kind of shape the future. It's super cool. What an exciting time, right? What an exciting time. All right, until next time, take care.